Would you like to experience more bonding and more love in your relationship? Are you feeling that lately things just are so disconnected between you and your partner, and you don't know how to get back to that really good feeling that you used to have? And as a matter of fact, you feel it would take a miracle. Well, if that's you, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Sherry Nichols, and I want to welcome you to The Miracle in You, a show that is dedicated to bring you hope and inspiration. And in our episode today, I'm bringing you an interview that I did with Dr. John Gray. He is the world's leading relationship expert, and he's most well known for his epic best-selling book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. A heads up that the video quality has much improved since this was filmed. Everything that Dr. John Gray shares in this conversation is gold. You're going to want to grab a pen and paper because he is going to wow you with tips and strategies that are going to help you increase the love and the deep connection in your relationship. Enjoy. Not long ago, I was reading that about 2/3 of Americans are unhappy. So I started to do some research about other countries in the world, and I discovered that this unhappiness thing is somewhat of an epidemic, which is so sad to me. So I decided to create this event. I am thrilled and honored to be kicking off our series here with a very special guest. Dr. John Gray is with us today. Now, John is the leading relationship expert in the world, and his books have sold over 50 million copies in 50 different languages around the world. I have admired him for years. His best-selling book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, was the first book I read after my marriage fell apart, and boy, did it open my eyes to men. And what I love about John is he is not only a brilliant teacher, he is one of the most entertaining speakers I have ever listened to. He has this amazing gift to really just cut through confusion and relationship struggles and really give very easy solutions. His many books and videos and seminars really do symbolize his dedication and his passion for helping men and women understand, respect, and appreciate the differences that they have in both personal and professional lives. And today, John is going to be talking to us about the science of love and bonding. Hey, welcome, John.
Well, thank you so much. I just love those words, playful, passionate, and happy. Those words to a man when he hears his wife is being playful, passionate, or happy is manna from heaven. This is the secret of actual empowerment for women in a relationship. The number one thing a man wants in his relationship with a woman is to feel that he in some way has contributed to her happiness, to her playfulness, to her joy, and of course her passion. It was just today I was counseling a couple, and what she wanted is her life was okay. She wanted to be happier. She wanted to feel the passion that she felt in the beginning of the relationship. And so many of us want that. This is like such a wonderful experience to have. And of course, her husband wanted to feel the passion and connection. They'd gotten into a routine. And once you go into routine, then what happens is newness goes away. And newness is so important to feel passion. But what happens is we get sort of routine oriented, or over time in our relationships, history sets in. And no longer are we feeling life's challenges, but we're focusing on the challenges in our marriage or in our relationship. And we start to focus on that. There was a time in my marriage where my wife was not happy. And she said to me, I said, honey, you're not happy. I need to feel that my wife is happy. Not all the time, but some of the time. And she said, John, I am very, very happy with everything in my life except you.
Oh,
And I listened to that and I said, all right, something is missing here. And I found a solution to this. And of course, it was a wake-up call for me. I needed to do some new things as well. But I needed to support her in recognizing that there were other things in her life that were causing stress. What we tend to do is we tend to think of the biggest stress, the biggest problem, and we focus all of our stress on that. And then it gets bigger rather than dividing it up into little pieces, little pieces, little pieces. For example, we all know the experience of that you're running late and then you depend on someone and they're not there and you've got 40 messages you've got to get back on and you promise to get something done and you still have to write thank you letters and you have to do this and you have to do that. Your tension's building up and then one little thing happens and it all comes out. That's, the like volcano effect. And that
Right.
tends to happen to the person you're most intimate with. So this is, because we look to them to sort of free us from all that. Because in the beginning of a relationship, there is an illusion. And it's very important for us to understand the illusion and pierce it. And the illusion is that my partner makes me happy. As opposed to I am happy and my partner makes me happier. So when I'm not happy, it's my job to be happy. But once I'm happy, I want to be happier by having a relationship because two together makes more. But you can't have two together to make more unless you have two together, two whole people inside themselves coming together, finding a greater whole. And that's a challenge for all of us because the first few years of a relationship, and particularly if you're single, just a few dates even, it's so easy to feel like this person is making me so happy and so fulfilled because there's newness and there's no history. So I want to talk a little bit about our brain chemistry here and our hormones. Whenever there's newness, if you like, when you go on a vacation, you go somewhere you've never been before, you're just so excited.
Yeah.
But if you've been there over and over and over, you take it for granted. And literally what's going on there is newness stimulates the brain chemical dopamine, which gives us pleasure and also promotes passion in the body. It releases oxytocin in women, which lowers their stress, and it releases testosterone in men, which causes men to be more attentive and more interested and more motivated. So women are always wondering, what happened to my husband or my boyfriend? He came on so strong, and then it's like, where'd it go? Well, part of it is the newness stimulates more testosterone in him, but for her, the newness stimulates the release of oxytocin, which makes her happy. So while she's saying, what happened to this guy who was so interested? He couldn't live without me. No, he's like focused on his work. He's busy with these other things. He hasn't even called. Well, what we men are thinking quite often is, what happened to that woman that was always so happy to see me? It's like all I had to do was be alive, and she was like bubbling with happiness. Well, part of that dynamic is simply newness and no history give us free hormones of testosterone and oxytocin. And what we want to do in our lives is, this is like a great insight that now we have with the science of hormones and brain chemicals, is we can create a life that stimulates that testosterone in him and stimulates that oxytocin in her without the newness and with the history. So that's kind of like our objective here, so we can keep passion alive for a lifetime. So the first thing we have to overcome is the expectation that my partner should make me happy. And giving ourselves permission, particularly for women, giving yourself permission, my job is not to make him happy either. Because so much time, women feel pressured to be happy all the time. Because women have caught on, when you're happy, of course he's happy, and that's because men always take credit for it. All we have to do as men is like, she's happy, I did that. That's just the nature of men, and it's a nice thing. It's also a little neurotic because then he thinks that he has the power to make her happy, and then when she's not happy, he feels like he's being blamed for it. And he puts that blame on himself, and if she thinks it's his fault, then he really gets a double blame. So the key here is to recognize we have to pierce the illusion that we're going to expect one person to make us happy when really it's ourselves that make us happy. That's one ingredient. But if you think of this like a pie, there's like several slices to the pie. One slice of the pie that makes you happy is the romantic love.
Mm.
And if you want me to talk a little later about that, I'm happy to do that. That's the two coming together to make you happier. And of course, I love that. I teach a lot about that because romantic love can take us to higher levels than we can ever get to on our own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like two coming together and being more. But for that to happen, there's another piece of the pie, which is our own self love.
Mm-hmm.
We have to feel worthy of love. We have to feel good about ourselves. And often when we're stressed, the very hormones that allow us to feel good about ourselves are missing. So stress becomes a big challenge for all of us here. But one piece of the pie is learning to love ourselves. And part of loving ourselves is saying, I'm equal to everybody else. Because what women particularly do is they make everybody else's needs more important than their own. And so it's important that for women particularly, is learning how to ask for what you want and learning how to say no to doing more.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's as simple as just saying, I really wish I could do that for you, but I can't. And
Mm-hmm.
then resist that temptation to explain yourself. Most
Uh-huh.
women have to explain as
Right.
opposed to, oh, I'd love to be able to do that. I can't. Stop. You don't have to explain yourself. Nobody's going to say to you, what do you mean you can't do that? And if you do, you just simply say again, I just can't do it. I'm doing so many things, but don't elaborate on all the things you're doing. Because
Is it the guilt, John? That
yes, it's a woman feels if I can do it, I should do it. It's the bottom line of femininity is to nurture and give everything. You know, a sweet story about that is one of my books is Children Are From Heaven, and I was teaching seminars on that for a few years. And my mother was at one of the seminars, and one of the women would say, I have one child. It's so much. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. Another woman said, I have two. She goes, how do you do it? Another woman said, I have three. They looked at her like, how do you do it? And I said, well, my mom, she's here. She has 7 children.
well,
And all the women were, how do you do it? And my mother smiled and she said, oh, whether you have one child or 7 children, you give them everything you have. And this is the
yeah.
truth. No matter what, women will give everything. That's their tendency is to give. And because you feel so good when you're giving, but if you're not receiving,
Mm-hmm.
then you feel exhausted, you feel burnt, and you start to resent. And then you feel guilty about feeling resentful because, you know, you don't want to resent people. You're loving.
Right.
It's a big challenge when women don't have permission to say, give themselves permission. And sometimes they just don't have the language. Clearly, they didn't have the role models, but they just need the language. And the language is in a friendly way without telling somebody all the things you have to do. Just simply say, oh, I wish I could do that. I'd love to do that. I can't. And that's like a big aha.
And that's it?
That's it. You don't have to say no more.
Wow.
It's so important. Nobody cares. And particularly multiply maybe if you're with 10 women, the other women go, well, who is she to think that she could just
Right.
say no? But for men will go, okay. You know, at the beginning of my marriage, my wife I'd ask her to do something. She'd say, John, I can't do that. I have to do this and this and this and this and this. I said, please, a simple no would be fine. I don't want to hear all the things that you have to do in order to say, I can't do more.
Right.
So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
part of the languaging. We have to keep, you know, if we don't have a role model, clear map of what can I say instead, because women will tend to want to make excuses why they can't do more. And the back door to that is it so in order to say no, so you feel like I have to say no, I have to give more time to myself, you feel a pressure to have lots of things that you have to do. So you fill up your calendar. So it gets messy. So that one simple technique can make a world of difference. And it underscores one of the key messages of the last 10 years that I've been sharing, along with the Minute from Mars message, which is for 30 years. But it was about 10 years ago that some women researchers discovered that the hormone oxytocin, it's a bonding hormone. It's the trust hormone. When you feel safe, you know, when you feel safe, you just sort of relax.
Yeah.
You have no barriers up. You're feeling, Maybe it could be you're going for a walk in nature. It could be like you're gardening. It could be you're on a romantic date where you feel safe with someone. You don't have to prove yourself. It's being able to fully relax. It could be getting a massage quite often. It could be shopping. These activities actually produce huge amounts of this hormone, oxytocin. And what these women discovered was that these women researchers at UCLA is that oxytocin actually, when it was released into the bloodstream, it lowered stress levels. And when your stress levels go down, you feel happy. So that's the key. You got to get the stress levels down, then happy and playful and passionate also comes along when you feel safe to express feelings. But
Yeah.
usually, when you're feeling safe, you express your feelings. When you have to bottle your feelings up, or you're in a relationship where you feel that there's parts of you just can't share with your partner, then you start to feel alone. Now, some things you don't have to share everything with your partner. Let's give a break to men. You know, it's like sometimes people say, I have to tell my partner this. I say, well, why do you have to tell them? You just told me. Don't you feel better? and But often what women feel is that if my partner doesn't know how I feel, then they won't understand why I want more. See, being
Yeah.
upset about various things or not having this and not having this justifies, therefore, I want more. Or I've done this for you, I've done this for you, I've done this for you. Therefore, I'm justified in saying, I want more.
Yeah.
And the secret for women is to realize with men, that has the opposite effect. Is that if you just ask a man, and the more you don't talk about problems to a man that have to do with him, problems with him, the more he wants to do whatever you want him to do. So now
That's the magic bullet.
that's the magic bullet right there. And I don't want to sound, things I say sometimes can be taken out of context, but in a relationship, if you minimize complaining, if you minimize nagging, if you minimize negative messages, critical messages, men feel successful, right? They, oh, look what I'm doing. Then if you ask them for something, they're happy to do it.
Yeah.
But if they get messages that tell him he's not successful, that lowers his testosterone. He just comes home and his testosterone levels start to drop because he feels like, I don't know what to do to make her happy.
Yeah.
And what you can do is, and be aware of what your complaints are, what you want more of, because always behind a complaint is a request. So it's like, start focusing with a man, go for a month, and you'll be happier too by doing this. When you feel like you're doing something that might work, that always makes you happy. So we can start out, but you can be playful, fun with this, which is practice not saying anything that might sound to him like a complaint, like a criticism, or like a nag. Nagging is asking for the same thing over and over with a tone of, why haven't you done it?
Uh-huh.
So I know women will say to me, but how will I get them to do anything? Because that's the only way they know to do it. Because they don't understand men. If you nag less, and I have to make a joke here. I hope it's appropriate, but it's one of the final lines, and we have a little Minute from Mars show that travels on the road with a comedian. One of his final lines is, so when you walk out the door, remember, ladies, you want better relationships with men, nag less and shag more. So the playful part of this is just for a month, just try it and just hold back. And what you'll do during that time is then practice building him up. So that's one way to stop unknowingly tearing him down, then build him up. And every day, as many times as seems, maybe 2 or 3 times, there's these 3 phrases to try using them.
Okay,
and you'll have fun doing it. This is about having fun in your relationships, or if you're not in a marriage, in the workplace, wherever you are, when you're with men, listen for a few minutes and just nod your head and go, that makes sense. As soon as you say to a man, that makes sense, you can watch. He'll puff up. He'll like, yes, what did I say? He didn't know what he said. A woman acknowledged me. That made sense. And if it's your wife, oh my gosh, it's fantastic. And all you're doing is you're listening anyway. You're
Yeah.
thinking, well, that makes sense. Just say it,
I
put it
love
out
that.
there. And so that makes sense. Another one is when he's talking about something or sharing some idea, just to go, good idea. Good idea. Oh my gosh, you'll just see what it does to a man. And the third one is that makes sense. Good idea. And this is the one that husbands really like. You're right. so, so,
So it's really, I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, those are three very, very simple things, and we always try, I think, to complicate things. We think it's difficult, you know. We get
what?
caught in that downward spiral of wanting things to be done, and they're not getting done, and we kind of box ourselves in, I think.
Well, part of boxing it in is one is not feeling comfortable saying no. Because, basically, you don't have to say no even. You can just say, oh, I'd like to do that. I can't do that. So you don't have to say no even if you don't feel comfortable saying no. Somebody you love or you care about, you don't want to just always say no. It's kind of harsh.
Yeah.
So you have to have another language. And the other language is, I'd love to, but I can't. and you say nothing more. So you learn to be able to start doing less for others.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that gives you more happiness and energy so you can give more and enjoy it. And you'll see that it'll work. So you have to set the limits. Setting boundaries is one part of it. And the next part of it is learning to receive more. So the art of receiving more, if you were to have guests to your house and to be receptive, you would prepare, right? So you're going to prepare. If you're dressing up to receive attention, look how beautiful she is tonight. You're going to prepare. I mean, women are the best preparers in the world. So when it comes to men, what you want to do is prepare him or prepare yourself, the situation, prepare the relationship.
Okay.
So that when you ask for what you want, you will get it. You see, I can tell you the skills for asking for what you want, but if he's felt for many days criticized, not appreciated, and complains, then he's not so willing to respond. You're going to get more resistance from him. So you give this period of time of 4 weeks, no criticism, no complaints, no nagging. Just let things be as they are. And at the same time, acknowledge him occasionally for you're right, good idea, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then what you do, now you set the ground. He's going to notice this. And he's going to go, wow, she's being so wonderful. I owe her. That's the funny thing about it. If you complain less, men feel like we owe you for being so loving to us. We want to do something for you. But women don't know that, so they point out, I did this for you, I did this for you, I did this for you, so you owe me. If you tell someone they owe you, then they don't owe you.
Right.
But if you don't tell them, he'll notice. That's the trust. That's where you have to all right, I'm going to trust this and see. And you'll see how much happier you are because when you're criticizing, complaining, or fixing, or trying to change him in any way, because he will resist that. He will always resist it. No, women resist it. Nobody wants somebody changing them. What I say, it's a little different with men, but for women, I have to explain this to men. The thing women are most sensitive to is a man trying to change how she feels. Telling him, you shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't be upset about that. You shouldn't want that. You shouldn't feel that way. So when you're sharing your feelings to him, because that's his reaction, you end up feeling worse afterwards rather than better. So you find girlfriends where you can share feelings with. Down the road, I'm going to teach you how to do it with a man. But first, you got to prepare. You have to prepare all this. It doesn't just happen overnight. So you now want to get to the place where you're setting your limits. So you're giving less. Mm-hmm. Now you have more to give. And of course, what you're going to give more of is good idea. That makes sense. And do less for him. Consciously start doing less and complaining less at the same time. Then you're warming him up to the place where you're going to start asking for more. And this happens in stages.
Okay.
The first stage is ask for romance. The second stage is ask for communication. The third stage is ask for help around the house. Now, this is amazing. The first step is romance. Second step is communication. Next is help around the house. All three of those things produce massive oxytocin. Massive. more than you can get by being with women. But you do still need hanging out with women, sharing with women, people who relate to you, listening to teachers who are women talking. You just go, yes, that's me. I'm not alone. I feel better.
Right.
All of those messages that you're not alone increase the oxytocin, which lowers your stress and allows you to feel happy.
Okay.
Now, the irony here is the greatest happiness that women can feel is in giving, but they can't feel that happiness unless they first received. So let's go over that again, because
Yeah.
it's when I'm being affectionate to my wife, she likes that. It builds up her oxytocin. But when she does something nice for me, because she feels so loved, that's what makes her the happiest. That's why the old saying, it's better to give than to receive. You feel happier giving than receiving. However, if you haven't received enough, then when you give, you burn out and you don't experience that pleasure.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Did you
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. And so you really, women need to fill up. You know, I think what I'm hearing you say is that we get into these giving too much jags, and then we don't fill ourselves back up, and then we get resentful, we get burnt out, we get exhausted, and
And then
that
we
just
blame our partners for not making us happy.
right, right, right. Then we blame
See,
the partner.
and
Yeah.
he can only fill one piece of the pie. That's that what I started out with. He can do one part. Another part of it is loving yourself. And loving yourself means setting boundaries and making choices of what you like to do as opposed to what everybody else would like you to do. So that's part of loving yourself. And also part of loving yourself is knowing what you like to do and doing that. You know, often, I can say to my wife, I'll say, honey, what would you like to do? And she says, I don't know. And, I'm over here trying to figure out what I can do for her. But part of her job is to know what she'd like to do. Now, it's certainly perfectly fine when I say, what would you like to do? And she says, I don't know. Then I say, well, let's explore this.
Yeah.
Let's look at some things that you might like to do. We could do together. And then she says, well, what would you like to do?
Yeah.
And I say, well, no, honey, I want to do something primarily that you would like to do. I actually do things I like to do all day long. I want to do something you like to do. You don't have to worry about whether I'll like it or not. And that's one of the biggest obstacles for women to know on a happiness level in a relationship what they would like. Because many times they did what they liked and he went to sleep, or he made comments about it, or he wasn't happy about it, or whatever. And so she ends up trying to figure out, what do I like that he would like also?
And a lot of times too, John, they forget, especially if they're moms and they've just been giving so much to everybody.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many women I talk to and they don't even know where to begin. They're like, oh, I haven't done anything that I enjoy in years.
Absolutely. That's the major one, which is not coming back to what is it that I like, what is it that I enjoy, and not to hang the blame on your partner, but not hang blame on yourself either, because it's only because you're so giving to other people and nobody taught you how to set that boundary. So now you're setting the boundary, and once you feel comfortable setting that boundary, in the beginning it will be hard, but the more comfortable you feel that you can set that boundary, the easier it is to look at what you would like. That's an important thing there. And also, when you feel comfortable to ask your partner for what you want, then you start becoming more aware of what you would like. So the way it works, we talked about the 3 places to create oxytocin in a relationship. I'm thinking that I ought to just read a list here real quick, since this is playful and fun.
Good. Yes.
I have a list of oxytocin producers. Can I read that list?
I would love you to read it. Yes, please.
This is like, I talk a lot about relationships. That's my expertise. But, I do individual therapy as well, and men and women and all that. And the primary success in a relationship, if we can first know how to make ourselves happy, then we go to our partners to become happier. So these are some ways, 101 ways, I don't know if I'll read them all, but that a woman to create oxytocin on her own. You'll get the general idea of it. Get a massage.
Yes.
Many women feel guilty spending the money on a massage. Massage is so important. And you can also ask your partner to give you a massage too. Yeah. That's another thing you could do. Okay, but get a massage. Get your hair done. Women don't realize when they're getting their hair done, this is an important luxury to produce oxytocin. You know, the guy does my hair, he actually charges more money for women than men. I said, isn't that kind of unfair? He says, no, John, they take longer. And I said, what is it, more hair? He says, not always. They just talk more. So part of getting your hair done is someone who's touching your head. You see, nobody touches your head except your hairdresser. And that is whenever you're touched in a new and different place, huge amounts of oxytocin get produced. That's why sex and arousal in sex is the prerequisite for a woman's arousal is very high oxytocin levels. That's why the whole idea of privacy, where not everybody gets to see all of her, only one person gets to see all of her, it produces much more oxytocin if there's a sense of privacy that I don't share this with anybody but you, and then touching those areas, seeing those areas, feeling connected at those areas that other people can't connect with you are massive oxytocin producers.
Mm-hmm.
But
interesting.
But see what happens for women often is like, well, I think about sex. I have all these things to do. But you could think about a foot massage. And if you can't even go to a foot massage, that's where you have to practice some discipline and say, you know what? For the benefit of my children and the world, they deserve a happy mother here. So I need to get a foot massage. A foot massage is also a major oxytocin producer.
Okay, yeah.
And if you say to a man, honey, I know you're really tired and busy. I'm just so glad you're here. Would you give me a foot massage? And he's going to be shocked if he's not a foot masseuse. And I know it seems awkward, but I know it would make me feel so much better. And I only need about maximum 10 minutes. Here's the oil. So you take this oil, you put it on your hands and put it on my feet and just rub. That's all you have to do. You don't have to be expert. I just need to have my feet massaged. I'll feel so much better. And you will, by the way, because it is a major oxytocin producer. And then you say, oh, that feels so good. Oh, it feels so good. He's going, I'm even enjoying this, you know.
And it's going to make him feel good that you're
does.
feeling good.
It does. That's the secret. Often when a man does something for a woman, often she feels, now I'm obligated to do something for him. Forget about the obligation. If you want to do something, fine. But he's happy just when you're happy.
Uh-huh.
And the reason that's such a revelation for women is that women's hormonal design isn't built that way. Mm-hmm. Women's hormonal design is built upon give and receive. Give and receive. That's when you're giving love, oxytocin is being released. You feel happier. Stress levels are going down. When you're receiving support, it feels nice, but it's not like giving. It's receiving. It's filling up, filling up, filling up. And then when you give back, the joy comes. So for women, they receive support. They immediately want to give it back because that's where the joy is. It's like if I say to my wife, honey, just relax, just sit down. You had such a big day. I'm making dinner tonight. And she'll sit there for a little while. Then she wants to jump up and help. She receives. Women can only receive so much before they want to give more. They want to give it back. Well, part of that is it's the giving back, which is where all the juice is. That's where the happiness is. So you just feel like, oh, I'd be happier if I was helping out here. Men, it's different. For us, it's around testosterone that lowers stress. Oxytocin does not lower stress for men. And too much oxytocin, which would make a woman fully relax, will cause a man to feel stressed, claustrophobic, like he can't breathe.
Wow.
That's why, often after sex, she's happy to cuddle and be there. For many men, for all men, there's a huge oxytocin release after climax. And now with that oxytocin in his body, he's cuddly for a few moments, but that oxytocin begins to lower his testosterone. And now when it gets a little low, he needs to sort of find himself again. He starts wanting to pull away, turn the other direction, withdraw. It sort of naturally happens. And if he's trying to be this good guy, and he's like cuddling as long as she wants to cuddle, a part of him is going, oh, I don't know how long I can take this.
That makes so much sense. It really does.
And then for a woman to understand that means she's not going to take these things so personally.
Right. It's so helpful to know that.
It's so helpful to know that because most of our stress in life has to do with how are we interpreting our reality.
Yeah.
So if a man, for example, if you're like, oh, I have to do this and I have to do this, and a guy's just sitting down doing nothing, you interpret that like, oh my gosh, he doesn't care about me. My needs aren't important to him. I can't get what I need. So let me try to get what I need. And now I'm going to do more until the only thing I can do now is complain that I'm not getting enough since he doesn't seem to see it. And that causes him to give less as opposed to understanding the science. It's like a science of relationships, or the art of relationships. Playfulness here is learning how to interpret things in the right light. So I'm going down my fun list here. Get your hair done, get a manicure, pedicure. This is so important that someone's holding your hands. That's what's so exciting about a manicure on a certain level. Someone's talking to you, someone's listening to you, someone's holding your hands. Men don't know that. Men hold a woman's hands in the beginning of the relationship, then they stop after a while because now they can hold other parts. You know, that's just step one for a man to get the face. so anyway,
and they don't realize how important it is for a woman to have that handheld.
They don't know that. You know, in a man's mind, all he thinks, the only reason you hold hands, once you've gone beyond first base, the only reason you hold hands is if you need somebody to help you walk across the street, because that's when your mother used to hold your hand. And you don't want to feel that way. So it's important. My wife trained me. You see, this is the thing about men. They're trainable. They're very trainable. And so she said to me, she says, honey, I love it when you hold my hand. And you don't have to hold it for a long time. You can just hold it for like 10 seconds even, and then let go. I'm happy. You can hold it for a minute, but no longer than that. That's fine. Because I didn't know that. I thought if I hold her hand, I have to keep holding her hand. And then I have to go, now I have to decide when to let go. And will that feel like rejection? And I don't want to reject her, but I can't really think clearly if I'm holding hands and trying to navigate.
And so much of this, John, is communication, right? I mean, it's just we're each of us making assumptions without really discussing.
Exactly. We're assuming our partner is not willing to do something when actually they'd be very willing if you say to them, and it's very important how to say it, not that you should hold my hand if you love me. Instead, I really like it when you hold my hand. It feels so good.
Yeah, it feels safe. It feels, protective, connective.
Yes, that's it. I mean, it melts a man's heart when you're on a date or you're out and you snuggle up next to him, you put your arm inside his arm like that, and he kind of goes, oh, okay. But then you have to back off a little bit. It can smother. And not to take it personally that you can sense he's wanting to get away a little bit. It's only because men can only tolerate so much connection, oxytocin, because oxytocin, as it builds and builds and builds, it starts lowering his testosterone. And for men to feel good about themselves, about life, to feel motivated, to feel positive, they need to have their testosterone levels at a healthy level. When men's testosterone levels start dropping, then men's estrogen levels start rising. And one of the functions of estrogen is it causes emotional reactions. So when men have strong testosterone, they tend to be rather cool, calm, and collected and direct. They can be empathetic, but they don't really get upset about that much. But if you have high estrogen, then suddenly your brain is flooded with emotions. And this is what estrogen will do. When a man's testosterone levels start to drop, he becomes grumpy, he becomes irritable, he becomes moody, he becomes whiny. If you get upset, he gets upset back. And these are all just symptoms of him not associating feeling successful with her.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm going to go to my list on oxytocin a little more.
Okay.
Get a manicure, pedicure, plan a Venus night out with your girlfriends. It's so important that he sees that you're happy without him. Send him pictures when you're away from him and you're happy on your little phone. I mean,
that's a great idea.
It's such a great idea. Is that you're out having a good time with your girlfriend, just thinking of you, or something just happened, or check this out. Is this hilarious? Wow. And this is, a guy goes, why am I not with her?
Right. And then he's missing her.
He's missing her. That's exactly right. You need to pull away at times so he has room to miss you. You see, that's the whole thing. Without feeling like you're mad at him and that's why you're going on a Venus night, or you won't do anything fun, so I'm going to go out and do fun things myself. Instead, it's like, hey, I want to schedule some time this week to go out with my girlfriends. And he kind of goes, well, don't you want to go out with me? Let's say if he's a needy guy. Then you, oh yeah, you can plan something. We'll put it right on the calendar. And then you don't have to say anything else. Don't justify your own needs. It's straightforward. Oh, well, why do you have to go out with your girlfriend? I love them. I have so much fun with them.
Yeah.
So here we
I love that.
Talk to a friend on the phone. Talking, we have phones all the time. For women have to know the number one oxytocin producer of all oxytocin producers is when you feel heard. That's why the number one complaint. Now I do these soulmate seminars, singles, couples, they come and I put the men in one room and the women in the other, have the men list their complaints, have the women list their complaints about men. And then we come together and always, and I'm not even in the room with the women, one of my trainers is for the women, but when the women do their list of complaints, every seminar, number one complaint women have is men don't listen. Now, why is that the biggest complaint? Because when a woman can share what's inside of her, particularly feelings, which are more intimate, things you wouldn't share to people at work, things you're not going to tell other people, you share those feelings with someone, huge amounts of oxytocin get produced. Men like to share, but men don't need so much oxytocin. Usually if a man is sharing, he's just arguing, trying to be right. His testosterone levels are down, his estrogen levels are up, but just talking about his feelings will not lower his stress. Solving a problem lowers a man's stress. And this, again, for women to understand, you kind of see he's upset. You think, oh, how can I get him to talk? Ignore him. Go out and go shopping. Buy some dresses. Come home. Say, look what I got. And when you're happy, he'll go, I did that. I bought that. I did that. I did that. That will bring his testosterone back up.
I love that. And what woman wouldn't love that? Go shopping.
My wife, when she did that, she said, I went shopping with Carol because I needed someone to support me because I felt so guilty doing something for me when my husband was feeling depressed. And she told me that. I said, thank goodness for Carol. So much better now.
That's great.
So here have a non-business related meal with a friend. Now the reason it needs to be non-business related is whenever you're having a business conversation, there's always you're solving a problem. Testosterone's getting produced. Mm-hmm. So what you want to do is, not that you can't have business conversations, there's nothing wrong with producing testosterone as if you're a woman, but your happiness comes from oxytocin. Now you may feel like, oh, if only I could have all this money, but it's the imagination that money it will pay your bills. It's the paying of the bills that raises oxytocin. But actually solving the problem, anything to do with making money, is releasing testosterone. And testosterone is good. It's good for women, but not as important to women as for men. A man has 30 times more testosterone than a woman on average. Now that's a very significant difference. Sometimes women listen to my talks and they go, oh, I don't relate to that at all. Those are the women who are born with higher levels of testosterone. So they can't relate to all of the things, but some of the things they will. Other women have never had someone actually listen to them and be empathetic and supportive. And therefore they don't have that experience of, oh, this really feels good. Mm-hmm. I have to remember a woman, a professor at Stanford, and she came up to me and you know, she was a very strong feminist. She didn't like my talk at all. This is 30 years ago when everybody wasn't so thrilled about differences between men and women. And she came up to me and she says, you know, I still rubs me the wrong way, some of the things you say, but you are right. We are different. And I tried some of the things you suggested. One of the things you suggested, which is when your husband comes home, be happy to see him. That's it. Just be happy to see him and then ignore him. She said, I did that. And he was so much nicer. He was like interested in me more. He'd follow me around instead of me following him around. And he said, and then the deal breaker where I really got that I had to open my mind to this is another instruction you give is to tell a man, I just want to talk about my day for 10 minutes. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything about it. I don't want you to comment on it. I just want to say it without being interrupted. And then I know you know what's going on inside of me, and we're done. And she said, that sounded like the stupidest, most non-intimate thing I'd ever could imagine. But I tried it, and I could not believe it. It was the first time in my life where I talked for 10 minutes without being interrupted by him. It felt good. It felt good. So there's always this new psychology that it has its place in the psychology office. In my therapy office, it has its place. I certainly do it with my clients, which is if someone shares a feeling, I say, so what you're saying is this, is that correct? And so forth. And let me understand this better. That's called reflective listening, which most people, they've been in therapy, they've learned about reflective listening. But when you go home and you try this with your husband or your wife, it doesn't work. Because for a man, whatever he said, it's never right. He doesn't get it right. And then you reinforce, he doesn't hear me, he doesn't hear me. And that's because for men, they don't hear you because when you're talking, they know they're going to be tested.
Tested.
Tested. At the end of 10 minutes, he's going to have to say back what you just said. And he has huge anxiety about this.
Oh my gosh. I never knew that.
No, ask any man. It's like you can watch his wife's talking. Oh, I'm going down. We don't know where this is going. And so it's like as soon as a man feels anxiety, stress when she's talking, blood flow stops going to the front part of his brain and goes to the back part of his brain where he's thinking of his solution as opposed to being able to empathize, which is front part of the brain. So
you get that blank stare kind of.
Well, that's when he's off thinking. You get the blank stare when he's been off thinking.
Yeah.
Now he comes back to the conversation and he doesn't know what you're talking about because he was thinking and he can't listen and think at the same time. And that's hard for women to understand because women can.
Yeah.
Women have 7 places in their brain where they can listen. Now, they've proven this. This is one of the first differences between men and women, which is they found out when a man has a stroke in this part of the brain, that from that point on, he'll never be able to hear. A woman can have a stroke in that part of the brain, same part of the brain that has to do with hearing, and she continues to hear because she can hear from this part of the brain. She can have a stroke there, and she'll hear from this part of the brain. She's got 7 locations in her brain where she can listen and function. She can listen and feel. She can listen and plan. She can listen and think. She can listen and remember. She can listen and analyze. Men can't do that. We have to sort of jog around our brain. So we're running from one part of the brain to another part of the brain to another part of the brain. And sometimes we've been thinking too much and we come back and we don't know who the subject of the conversation is. Wow. That's when you get that glaze. He goes, oh my gosh. Then more panic sets in because he'll say to her, would you say that again? And you're thinking, why do I have to say that again? Aren't you listening? It's because he was thinking somewhere and missed it. And he really, bless his heart, he's trying. The image of it kind of reminds me of a movie I just saw where the woman was really in shape and the guy wasn't. And they went jogging. And women who are in shape can go on and on and on. This guy, I'm out of breath. I can't make it. Oh. Well, that's what it's like when women start talking. That's why I put this little 10-minute limit. If it's just sharing, you say to them 10 minutes. You don't have to say anything. Don't have to fix anything. Really, just give me a hug at the end. And what she needs to do is say, oh, I feel so much better knowing that you know what I'm going through. And that's the point of it.
Yeah.
A relationship is you want to share. And in the beginning of the relationship, you can share everything. And he listens 100% because he doesn't feel responsible for any of your problems. See, there's no history.
I see.
He goes, oh, she's got all these problems. Wait till she meets me. I'm Superman. I'll solve that one. I'll solve that one. I'll handle that one. Okay, I'll do that one. If I marry her, I'll really solve that one. And so he's in this place of anticipating I can take all those problems away. Uh-huh. And now you're married and he hits all these problems. He feels like a failure.
I see.
So the challenge is to, in the beginning, and this is step 2, I really haven't covered the full thing on asking for what you want with romance. We moved into ask what you want with terms of communication. You have to prepare the ground for him to hear feelings that you might have about him and the relationship.
Yeah.
Prepare it. And this takes a good 6 months of preparation where you're training him how to listen to a woman's feelings. Because when a woman starts out with feelings, she might feel frustrated, she might feel disappointed, she might feel sad, she might feel concerned, she might have fears, she might regret, she might have embarrassment. These are all problems to a man. He goes, oh, there's a problem, I got to put out the fire. But if you tell him if the problems are not about him, then he doesn't have to do anything. And when he doesn't have to move around his brain and figure out what to do, he sits in one part of his brain and listens.
Yeah.
It'll be the first time in his life where he fully listened to her, and she'll start to feel this sense of safety that I
Yeah.
can talk. But even more important, she feels that I'm not alone in this relationship. He knows what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Because what happens if without this skill, if my wife would say to me, "Oh, the traffic was so awful," I'd say, "Well, what road were you on? You should take this one. You should take that exit, and then you'll miss that next time." That's a good advice, good suggestion. It's not what she needs to lower her stress. It's
Right.
what she's
Right.
needing is to fill up. And the filling up is when someone sees you with eyes of love, when
Yeah.
someone hears you with empathy. And empathy is one of the most powerful, giving empathy to a woman is the most powerful oxytocin, one of the most powerful oxytocin producers.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And I really appreciate you explaining it, because once it's explained, it we have somewhere to go with it, and I love the parameter of the 10 minutes, because then it frees the guy up, and the woman can just talk and not, setting the ground rules. If she doesn't expect anything in return, that's great.
That's right. And not only does she not expect anything in return, she got something. She's going to say, "Thanks so much for, I feel so good." You don't have to thank him.
It's true.
You just have to say, "It feels so good to get that out." And a big hug. Let me give me, another thing is, give me a big hug, or go in for the hug. You don't have to ask for the hug. Just go in for the hug, and he'll give you the hug. And he'll kind of go, "Hey, what did I do here? I didn't do anything. She's happy. I think I can do this. Let's do this some more."
Yeah.
But in the beginning, he won't understand it very well. So you have to constantly remind him, "No, really, you don't have to say anything." You can see a guy getting kind of thinking about trying to figure something out. He's getting a little frustrated. He's holding back. You just have to say to him, "Oh, no. I'm feeling better and better as I'm talking about this." You don't have to say anything.
That's
And then
perfect.
he knows his job. It's kind of like men say, "Just tell me what you want. Just tell me what you want."
Right, exactly.
It's give him the job description that will really work for you in a language that he can understand.
That's
So,
right.
I looked at lots of these things, but, sing in the shower. It's such an important thing. When women sing, oxytocin gets produced. Join a group of people singing. A choir or some kind of group singing is one of the biggest oxytocin producers. Every tradition around the world, people sing in groups. This is like the most ancient tradition on the planet, particularly because it stimulates the oxytocin in women. It's a huge bonding thing, singing. And of course, if the man sings, it produces his testosterone, because he goes, "Look what I'm doing to the women." This is the epitome of romance, is the man singing a song to a woman.
That's so true.
And if he can't sing, he can read poetry to her. And it takes a while to get a guy to read you poetry. Although what you can do is you can find a book on poetry that you like and ask him to read it to you.
Oh my gosh, that's a great idea. That is a great idea. John, you have given us so much. You've been so generous, and I know that you have along these lines, you have more information for people that they can access, a free gift that you're giving, Mars Venus Dating.
Yes.
And I was hoping that you could share a little bit about that.
First of all, I'm going to finish one other point and share about that book, Mars Venus Dating.
I would love to. I just didn't. You've been so generous with your time. I didn't.
It's all right. I'm having fun too.
Good. Well, as long as you want, I'm happy.
Happy, playful women are my thing. I love it. I have 3 daughters. I have my wife. And this book, Mars Venus Dating, is by my youngest daughter. Now, she's 28. She has her own relationship blog. She's sort of carrying on. She's written a course now for women. It's just about out. It's called Getting Me Time, How to Get Me Time and Enjoy It. That's great. Her, she's been working for a year on it. She's brilliant as a woman, expressing from the woman's point of view many of the ideas I've talked about today. Well, she wrote the book Mars Venus Dating. She's steeped in these ideas. People say to her, "Are you a therapist? What are your credentials?" She says, "No, she says, I learned Mars Venus with my ABCs." And the funny thing about it, she was actually under my desk when I wrote Men Are From Mars, because I was taking care of her while I was writing the book, and she'd be at the desk, and there was like a little desk under my desk, and she was, on the days when everything was flowing, she was drawing one picture, another picture, and it was just coming through her. I mean,
that is so sweet. And she couldn't ask for better training anywhere. right?
She has a magnificent relationship. She knows what she's doing. She's had lots of opportunity to see it work and teach it. And
That's great.
in her relationship with her partner, uh, she has one column which is called Winning Moves, where she talks about all the things he does. It's just wonderful to have positive role models of what men can do, what women can do to make their relationships fun and passionate and happy. So back to the one point I wanted to remind, because I'm coaching women today on how to ask what you want. So here's a key phrase. Never say to your partner, just take it out of your vocabulary, what would you like to do? You don't care what he would like to do. If he'd like to do something, he'll tell you. He's not a woman. Don't say to him, would you like to go out to dinner tonight? What's he going to say? No, I'd rather just stay home, have you cook a meal for me. That feels good to me. And you're going to think he's so selfish. But no, you asked him, what would he like? Of course he would like you to make a meal for him. I would prefer a meal for my wife any day to going out to eat. Are you kidding? So she says, what would you like to do? I'd like you to make a meal and let's watch a show on TV. Most men, many men, they go to work. Home is their base. They want to be home. They want to be with their wife. They want to be with their children. I don't want to go out. So
right.
What you have to do is you have to realize it's not that he won't do it. It's just that's what he would like to do. But you know what he would like to do more?
Make you happy.
Make you happy. See that smile on your face. And he just doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't know what's most important for women. And for many women, getting out is very important, A.
Yeah.
B, knowing it's going to happen in advance. See, men have no idea about this, how important it is to a woman to be able to plan. Because when she's planning in advance, next week, I'm going to wear this. No, I'm going to wear that. Or I might wear this. I got to tell so-and-so. I get to brag about this. I'm going with John. We're going here. These are all big oxytocin producers.
Yeah.
Because, if you imagine you're well, I'll just say the simple truth. If you're anticipating getting support, you're actually building oxytocin at that time.
Oh, wow.
That's why there's so much happiness around weddings, because the wedding is a symbol of living happily ever after. So you have this huge expectation that everything's going to get better and better and better. And that expectation of that special experience produces the oxytocin today.
Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
That's anticipation. So men don't understand this. Some women don't realize it in these words, but for men, they don't have a clue. Men think. I say to my wife on Friday night, I go, hey, honey, what do you want to do tonight? As if I'm being magnanimous. I'll do whatever you want to do. You tell me, I'll do whatever you want. She can't even find what she wants to do. She's got this to do, this to do. She's got this. Men don't realize women are booked up for weeks in advance. And that's part of why women don't know what they like to do or want to do. It's just somebody says, what would you like? What do you want? It's hard to think of what you want now, but it's easier next week. Let's plan something for next week. What would you like to do? And if he doesn't say that to her, what she can say to him is, hey, John, let's plan something for next week. I have some ideas. Let's talk about it. And then give him 1, 2, 3 ideas. If he says some things, he hasn't yet taken my course, so he'll say some things too. He said, that's a good, I think what I'd really like to do. You want to own the space of what I'd really like to do is A, B, or C, 3 things that she would like to do. Then she says, and you pick. And take some time to think about it and surprise me. Surprise me tomorrow and let me know what your plan is. And so then he has to pick. Now he gets to take credit for taking you. You see, if my wife says, I want to go see this particular show, Wicked. I want to go see Wicked. Will you take me to Wicked? I take her to Wicked. Wicked is fantastic. Afterwards, people say, oh, you went to Wicked. And you say, yeah, Bonnie picked it out. It's not as exciting for him, and it's not as exciting for her as, yeah, I got him to come with me. If she says there's Wicked, or we can go to the park, or we can go walk over the bridge and go for a picnic, you pick. And then I pick Wicked. Then she, oh, I'm so glad we went to Wicked. And he goes, yes, I picked Wicked. Take credit for it. Everything about testosterone is being able to take credit. That's why we want you to be happy, because we're like, at least I did that. Yeah, I take credit. And from her side, women brag. They brag. My husband did this. John brought me
Yeah.
this show. The show was great. You know?
Oh yeah, and then that makes you feel even bigger and more puffed. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's like we can fit together perfectly when we understand these differences. So what I want women to understand is romance is not a one-way street where he's doing it for you. It's a two-way street, but we have different roles to create the best testosterone for him, the best oxytocin for her. She identifies what she wants. She
Yes.
asks him, but you decide based upon what you would like. He provides. He does the whole thing. She arrives. And once she's arrived, her focus then is to not point out anything that goes wrong. Just focus on what makes you happy. The fact that you're with him, you're there, and look, he went out of his way to do this, as opposed to casually mentioning, you know, these beans at this restaurant are so salty. I thought this was a better restaurant. I can't believe they cook them like this. They cost so much too. That would be normal kind of conversation for some women with another woman, and they'd be going, "Yeah, I better bean recipes, and my mother made bean." You know, they have a big conversation about how bad the beans were, and then
Right.
they produce oxytocin because they're sharing their feelings.
Uh-huh.
That's not the setting to bring up anything negative on a date. Just like it's not the setting for him to bring up any negative. And so, let's say you've been to the symphony with him once before, and he fell asleep and snored or something. Let's take a funny example. Then the next time, what you say to him, "Oh, I'd love to go to the symphony," and he says, "Okay, we're gonna, you know, or this or this. Well, let's go to the symphony." Then you say, "I have only one more request. Please, don't fall asleep. If you don't fall asleep, it will make such a better experience for me." So again, you're making a specific, tiny little request, so it'll be happy for me. I know you don't like this, but just don't look at your watch or moan out loud. It's kind of embarrassing. It will make me so happy. Just hold it inside. So what we're doing there is learning to be specific, little requests, and little bit by little bit by little bit. We learned about asking for communication. We learned about asking for romance. There's so much more that women can learn about with my daughter's course when it comes out. But in the meantime, it's a lot of this is in my little book here, Why Mars and Venus Collide.
Oh.
I know many people are going to be wondering, what was that list he was reading from?
Oh yeah, exactly, exactly. And John, can they get that book at your site, marsvenus.com?
They can go to my site and get this book, and it's very reasonably priced there. As well, I want to mention at marsvenus.com, we have lots of video blogs on relationship topics and so forth, and also on health topics. And I just want to toss this in because our theme is happiness.
Yes.
And stress is the biggest inhibitor of happiness. And what I found is our carbohydrate diet, which is, you know, we all know we eat too much sugar. And I'm not going to preach about don't eat sugar because I know people are going to eat as much sugar as they're eating anyway. It's kind of like a American pastime addiction. So at least we can compensate for it. And one of the things that sugar does, it depletes the brain of a particular mineral. And that mineral is lithium. It also it actually depletes the brain of many minerals: magnesium, calcium, lithium, potassium. They literally go out your urine after you've had a lot of carbohydrate processed foods. So we all need mineral supplement. And the most powerful one is lithium. Now, I know many people have heard lithium as a drug that doctors give, but doctors give a particular form of lithium which is toxic to the body, used in high doses for bipolar. But lithium itself is a mineral like any other. And I have a whole talk on it at my website. And I've been giving it to people, recommending it to people, because it's over the counter. It's not a drug. It's not a prescription. It's a mineral support bonded to a substance that's in mother's milk. When it's bonded to that substance, it carries the lithium across the brain to produce serotonin. And serotonin lowers testosterone. What serotonin does is serotonin gives the message that you're receiving. Once you're receiving, your oxytocin levels go up. So one of the most powerful things to increase your oxytocin is also to boost your serotonin levels. Lithium orotate, potassium orotate, magnesium orotate, calcium orotate. At my website, there's a full spectrum mineral supplement with these orotates that women and men, both, and children, they go, wow. Because I can recommend lots of L-theanine and GABA, lots of different supplements that will calm you down, relax you, and I have videos of that and all that stuff on my website. But the one that's most powerful is minerals, because what you find is you don't feel you're in an altered state at all. It's just that your mind is no longer looping on things that are bothering you.
Oh,
You know,
beautiful.
that's the, and when the looping goes away, what you find is, oh, there's so many other things to be happy about.
Yeah.
And it's the easiest, most simple. There's other things people can do to be happy as far as nutrition and health and focus. And, actually the book that's coming out in a month is called Staying Focused in a Hyper World, Natural Solutions for ADHD, Memory, and Brain Performance.
I am
So
buying that book.
it's
I
really
am
quite,
definitely buying that book. I love to hear about the memory stuff, especially.
yeah, memory is so, well, the super minerals is one of the first things for the memory. And I mean, I'm like amazing. I can do these talks now and I can read the 9-digit numbers, to put in for the telephone. You have to call in, you have to
Yeah.
put all these code. I could look and do 9 digits and remember it. I could only do like 4 before. I mean, I have
Wow.
better memory now than I had before. So it's like amazing. It really is. Once your brain is getting the fuel. See, we're just not giving enough fuel to the brain, and the brain starts slowing down, slowing down.
Yeah, that's true and fascinating. So they can find out all that information at is it the marsvenus.com site?
Yes, it's just marsvenus.com.
Okay, and they can also get the Mars Venus dating, which you are so generously gifting them. And everybody, that is going to be the link to that is going to be on the replay page. So you can easily access that. And John, you've got tons of amazing information on that site. So is there any other place that you would like to direct them to get in touch with you, or is that the best place?
Well, that's the best place to get in touch with me. And I will mention that on there you can get information. 3 times a year I do a 4-day soulmate seminar for
Oh, cool.
couples and for singles. And that's at
Cool.
my ranch. It's a very limited number of people. It's actually very reasonably priced for people as well.
That sounds amazing, really amazing. Well, I cannot thank you enough, John, for being with us today. You have been just a plethora of wonderful information, and I know everything that you've shared with us has made a huge impact for the women listening. I was having so many ahas, and I was like oxytocin because of all the laughing, and then ahas, and going back and forth, and I just have loved having you. Thank you so much for sharing about the science of happiness and love and bonding, and really a pleasure being with you today.
Thank you so much. A real pleasure.
And for all of you beautiful people listening, I really want to thank you for taking this time for you. And I encourage you, I invite you to put into action the tips and the strategies and the communication tips that John shared with us today, so that you can create the life that you want, a more playful, passionate, loving life that you so deserve. Thanks so much for being with us, and there is so much more to come. We've just begun. Bye now.